Episode 6 of Dutton Ranch changed everything, and the final moments left fans with one shocking question. What really happened to Jamie Dutton? After an episode filled with unexpected trust, hidden emotions, and dangerous family secrets, the mention of Yellowstone's biggest villain created a mystery that could completely change the future of the ranch. But that was not the only twist. While Beth and Beulah seemed closer than ever, a darker threat was quietly growing inside the ranch, and Rip may soon be forced into a fight that nobody can stop. With Rob Will's return creating chaos, Carter struggling with his place in the family, and old Dutton's secrets coming back to the surface, Episode 6 feels like the beginning of a storm that is about to explode. So, let's break down the ending of Dutton Ranch Episode 6 and explain what these shocking moments could mean for the future. The most surprising part of Dutton Ranch Episode 6 was not a fight or a major betrayal. It was the relationship that started developing between Beth and Beulah. For most of the episode, it felt like both women were testing each other, trying to understand whether the other person was a friend or a threat. There was always a feeling that someone was hiding something. But by the end of the episode, that tension started to change into something much more interesting. Instead of seeing each other as enemies, Beth and Beulah began to recognize that they might actually be more alike than they ever expected. Beth has always been someone who survives by being stronger than everyone around her. She walks into dangerous situations with confidence because she knows how to read people and how to control a room. That side of Beth was on full display during her business meeting with Zane. She was not just trying to save the ranch. She was trying to rebuild its reputation and prove that the Dutton name still means something. What made this moment important was the fact that Beulah noticed it. She saw the same fire in Beth that she once had herself. For Beulah, Beth represented a younger version of her own past, someone willing to fight for something bigger than herself. It was not just about business. It was about protecting a legacy. The conversation between Beth and Beulah revealed that both women understand what it means to carry the weight of a family name. They both know that owning land is not just about money. It is about history, sacrifice, and the people who came before them. That is why their connection feels so powerful. They are two women who have spent their lives fighting battles that most people would never understand. But the biggest question surrounding Beulah is whether she truly trusts Beth or if she is still looking for information that could be used against her. Earlier in the series, Beulah made it clear that people with secrets are dangerous because secrets can control them. That statement becomes much more important after the ending of Episode 6. When Beulah started asking questions about Carter and his connection to Beth and Rip, it seemed like she was digging deeper into the Dutton family. She wanted to understand why someone outside the bloodline could become so important to them. But then the conversation moved toward Jamie Dutton, and suddenly, everything changed. The mention of Jamie was one of the biggest moments of the entire episode. For fans of Yellowstone, Jamie Dutton represents years of betrayal, conflict, and pain inside the Dutton family. His disappearance is not something that can simply be ignored, especially because Beth knows exactly what happened between them. The reaction on Beth's face said everything. She did not want to talk about Jamie. She did not want to reopen that chapter of her life. Her response showed that she had chosen to bury the past rather than face it. But Beulah's question proved that some secrets have a way of returning. The interesting thing is that Beulah does not seem like someone who wants to expose Beth. After everything we learned about her own past, she understands that survival sometimes requires making impossible choices. She knows that protecting a family can force people to cross lines that they never thought they would cross. This is why the relationship between Beth and Beulah has become one of the most fascinating parts of the show. They are not connected because they are the same person. They are connected because they understand each other's pain. They both know what it feels like to protect something precious while carrying the consequences of their decisions. At the same time, Beth should not completely lower her guard. Beth's greatest strength has always been her ability to see danger before anyone else. Even if Beulah respects her, there is still a possibility that future conflicts could put them on opposite sides. The ending of Episode 6 leaves us wondering if Beulah discovered more than she admitted. Did she simply notice Beth's reaction, or did she realize that there is a much bigger secret hidden behind Jamie Dutton's disappearance? That mystery could become one of the biggest storylines moving forward. For now, it feels like Beth has finally found someone who understands her. But in the world of the Duttons, trust is always complicated. the same person who stands beside you today, could become your biggest challenge tomorrow. And while Beth and Beulah were building a surprising connection, another dangerous situation was developing at the ranch. A problem involving Rob Will was growing bigger, and soon Rip would have to decide how far he was willing to go to protect everything they had built. While Beth and Beulah's relationship became stronger in episode 6, another story was quietly becoming much more dangerous. Rip's storyline showed exactly why he remains one of the most important characters in the Dutton world. He is not someone who looks for problems, but when someone threatens the people and the land he protects, he becomes a completely different person. Throughout the episode, Rip continued to show the kind of authority that made him such a powerful figure in Yellowstone. He does not need to raise his voice or prove himself. His presence alone is enough to make people understand the seriousness of a situation. The cowboys respect him because they know he has earned that respect through years of loyalty and sacrifice. But the real danger surrounding Rip was not coming from outside enemies. It was coming from within the ranch itself. Rob Will's return changed the entire balance of power. Even though he did not have the biggest amount of screen time in the episode, his presence created a feeling that something bad was coming. Rob Will is unpredictable. He is the type of person who can turn a small problem into a disaster because he acts on emotion instead of thinking about the consequences. That makes him one of the biggest threats to everything Beulah and the others are trying to protect. The most interesting part about Rob Will's character is that he does not see himself as the villain. In his own mind, he believes he has been ignored, disrespected, and pushed aside for his entire life. He carries years of anger, and that anger has turned into something dangerous. His relationship with Hayne explains a lot about who he really is. Rob Will has always felt like he was the brother who could never become the favorite. He believed Hayne was the person who could do no wrong in their mother's eyes, while he was always the disappointment. That kind of resentment does not disappear easily. When Rob Will started manipulating Chad, he was not simply causing trouble. He was using Chad's emotions and frustrations as a weapon. He understood exactly what Chad wanted to hear. He made him believe that he was finally being respected and that someone actually saw his value. But the truth was much darker. Rob Will was creating a situation where Chad would make a choice that could destroy everything around him. By convincing Chad that he had to stand up for himself, Rob Will pushed him closer to a decision that could have ended in disaster. This is what makes Rob Will so dangerous. He does not always attack people directly. Sometimes he simply creates the conditions for other people to destroy themselves. However, the plan did not go exactly how he expected. When Rip discovered Hayne injured and realized something was wrong, the situation became much bigger. Rip immediately understood that there was more happening beneath the surface. The conversation between Rip and Hayne was another important moment because it revealed how much fear exists inside this family conflict. Hayne knew the truth about his brother, and when the pressure increased, he revealed information that could completely change the future of the ranch. The fact that Hayne blamed Rob Will showed that their relationship has been broken for a long time. This is not a simple disagreement between brothers. This is years of jealousy, anger, and competition finally reaching a breaking point. The comparison to a family tragedy like Shakespeare's Hamlet feels appropriate because both brothers seem trapped in a cycle where revenge and resentment control their decisions. One brother wants recognition, while the other wants survival. But the biggest mystery is still the truth behind Wes's death. Earlier in the story, we were given one explanation about why Wes was killed. It was connected to a situation involving drugs and things getting out of control. But episode 6 suggests there may be more to the story than what we were originally told. In the world of the Duttons, the first explanation is rarely the complete truth. There are always hidden motives, forgotten conflicts, and people protecting their own interests. That is why Wes's death could become a much bigger storyline as the season continues. If the real reason behind his death is connected to the ranch's history, then the consequences could affect everyone. For Rip, the biggest challenge is going to be protecting the ranch from people who believe they are helping it while actually destroying it. Beulah wants to preserve her family's legacy, but her biggest weakness might be her love for Rob Will. She sees the good side of him because she is his mother. She wants to believe that he can change, but Rip sees things differently. He judges people by their actions, not their promises. And Rip has already seen what happens when someone threatens the people he loves. The conflict between Rip and Rob Will feels inevitable. Rip represents loyalty, discipline, and protection. Rob Will represents chaos, anger, and revenge. These two forces cannot exist peacefully forever. The question is not whether they will clash. The question is how far that conflict will go when it finally happens. Because if Rob Will continues down this path, he may not only destroy his relationship with his family, he may become the biggest threat the ranch has faced. And while all of this was happening, Carter was dealing with a completely different battle. Unlike Rip and Beth, his fight was not against another person. His fight was about discovering who he really wants to become. His choices in episode 6 showed that he may be ready to step away from the people who saved him, but that decision could come with consequences he does not understand yet. While the biggest conflicts in Dutton Ranch episode 6 were connected to family secrets and power struggles, Carter's story focused on something much more personal. His journey has always been about finding a place where he belongs, and this episode showed that his biggest battle is not with anyone else. It is with himself. Carter has spent a long time trying to understand where he fits in this world. He entered the Dutton family's life as someone who had already experienced loss and pain. He was not born into their world, but over time, Beth and Rip became the closest thing he had to a real family. They gave him protection, guidance, and something he had never truly experienced before, a home. But episode 6 showed that Carter is starting to question what that home really means. The episode revealed that Carter is carrying a lot of emotions after Dwight's death. He is dealing with grief, confusion, and guilt, but he is keeping everything inside. Instead of talking about what happened, he chooses silence. That decision says a lot about Carter's character. Carter has always wanted to be seen as stronger and more mature than people expect. He does not want everyone protecting him. He does not want to feel like the child everyone has to look after. He wants to prove that he can handle difficult situations on his own. The problem is that his desire to become independent could push him away from the people who actually care about him. This is where his relationship with Oriana becomes important. When Carter spent time with Oriana, their connection felt different from his relationships with the rest of the ranch. Around Beth and Rip, Carter is always reminded of his past and everything they have done for him. With Oriana, he feels like he can simply be himself. Their fishing trip gave Carter a chance to open up. For once, he was not trying to act tough or hide his emotions. He admitted how he felt, and he told Oriana that he loved her. But Oriana's reaction revealed something deeper about both of them. She did not immediately return those feelings because she questioned whether either of them truly understood what love was. At first, that moment might seem like rejection, but it actually revealed a much bigger truth about Oriana's own life. Oriana has never had a simple understanding of love. Growing up around someone like her father changed the way she viewed relationships. She saw a person who was supposed to protect his family, but instead created pain and instability. When someone grows up around that kind of environment, love can become confusing. It becomes difficult to know the difference between real care and temporary affection. That is why Carter's words affected her so much. When Carter talked about Beth and Rip, he explained something important. He said that they cared for him in a way nobody else ever had. They gave him a family when he had nowhere else to go. For Carter, that is what love means. It is not just saying the right words. It is showing up when someone needs you. It is protecting someone even when things become difficult. But for Oriana, that kind of love is something she is still trying to understand. Their relationship works because both characters are damaged in different ways. Carter is someone who finally found a family but fears losing his independence. Oriana is someone who struggles to trust love because she has never seen enough examples of it. Together, they represent two people trying to learn what a healthy relationship actually looks like. However, Carter's biggest struggle may not come from Oriana. It may come from his own decisions. During the episode, Carter expressed that he did not want to belong to anyone anymore. He did not want to always be the person someone had to protect. He wanted to make his own choices and live life as his own man. That feeling is understandable, but it creates a dangerous situation. The Dutton world is not a place where people survive easily alone. Family and loyalty are everything. Walking away from Beth and Rip could mean losing the only people who truly have his back. This creates an interesting conflict because Carter is not wrong for wanting independence. Everyone eventually wants to create their own identity, but the way he chooses to do it will determine whether he grows stronger or makes a mistake. The last moments involving Carter and Oriana added even more mystery. When Oriana looked at her phone and told Carter they needed to leave, it immediately created questions. Where were they going? Who contacted her? And what kind of trouble could be waiting? There are several possibilities. One possibility is that Oriana's father has reached out after leaving rehab. If that is true, then Carter could suddenly become connected to a dangerous family situation that he is not prepared for. Another possibility involves Oriana's former boyfriend. Earlier events suggested that someone from her past could become a serious threat, especially after making dangerous promises against Carter. If that person returns, Carter's desire to prove himself could put him directly in harm's way. This is the biggest danger for Carter's character. He wants to be treated like an adult, but he may not realize that being an adult means understanding consequences. Strength is not just about fighting your own battles. Sometimes strength means knowing when you need help. Beth and Rip have spent years learning that lesson. They know that survival is not about standing alone. It is about knowing who you can trust. Carter is still learning, and that makes his storyline one of the most unpredictable parts of the season. While Beth is dealing with secrets from the past and Rip is preparing for a possible war inside the ranch, Carter is facing a personal decision that could change his entire future. If he chooses the wrong path, he could lose the family he fought so hard to find. But if he learns to balance independence with loyalty, he could finally become the person he wants to be. And as episode 6 moves toward its final moments, all of these separate storylines begin moving toward one unavoidable question. How much more pressure can the Dutton Ranch survive before everything finally breaks apart? Episode 6 of Dutton Ranch was not just about what happened on the surface. The real power of the episode came from the secrets hiding underneath every conversation. Almost every character was carrying something they did not want others to know. And as the season moves closer to its final episodes, those secrets are beginning to collide. The biggest secret hanging over the entire story is still the disappearance of Jamie Dutton. For fans of Yellowstone, Jamie was never just another character. He represented one of the most complicated relationships in the Dutton family. He was a person who wanted love and acceptance, but spent years making choices that damaged the people around him. His conflict with Beth became one of the most painful parts of the family's history. That is why his name being mentioned in episode 6 carried so much weight. The moment Beulah brought up Jamie, Beth's entire attitude changed. A woman who usually has an answer for everything suddenly became quiet. She tried to move past the conversation, but the reaction showed that the past is not as buried as she wants everyone to believe. Beth has always been someone who refuses to show weakness. She hides her pain behind anger, confidence, and control. But Jamie is one of the few people who can still break through that wall because their history is too deep. The interesting part is that Beulah did not react like someone searching for a weapon. She did not immediately judge Beth or accuse her. Instead, she simply observed her reaction.